What's up everyone? Hope that you're all doing really well. So over the past 10 years that I've had this channel, every now and then someone has asked me what guitar I'm using, and they've obviously maybe like guessed what guitar it is, etc. I always reply to people asking what guitar it is, exactly what make and model it is, but I thought I would do a video about it, and I thought I would do a mini series covering the gear that I have and that I use in the video and that you see. So it won't be very long, but then at least you'll actually know what I'm using for definite. So we're going to start with the guitar I use the most. It is also my favourite guitar. For me, it is the most comfortable for me to play, and that is an ESP LTD H251 FM. Just a bit of a disclaimer before I start talking about the guitar. If you like the look of it, it is discontinued, so it's not readily available anymore. I've had this guitar nearly 15 years, so unless you happen to find it on a site like Reverb, etc., it's not going to be able to be purchased readily, so I'm very sorry if that's the case. But if you do find one, I recommend picking one up, at least to see what you think of it, because I really like it. There are of course newer H series. I've not tested any of those. I would love to. If any guitar manufacturers are watching, I would like to review your guitars. I don't know if my channel's too small, but if you send me a guitar, I will play it and I will do a video on it, and I will enjoy every second of it, I'm sure. But anyway, that's just a heads up for how much I love guitars and how many I want to play. But in any case, so this is, like I say, my favourite guitar. I feel like it's so ergonomically built. It's only a mid-range guitar, but it's extremely comfortable and snug. For me personally, the neck is like perfect for my hand size. I've actually hurt my wrist at the moment, so you'll have to bear with me. But the size of the frets, the neck, etc., because I don't have the biggest hands, I just find that it fits really well for me, my playing style, etc. And I'm so happy that I found it so early on, because like I said, I've had this for a long time now. It's been gigged with, I've done live stuff with it, I record with it, my newest songs have been recorded on it, and I love it dearly. So I'm going to tell you the exact specifications so you know exactly what's going on with it. Obviously there are going to be signs of wear and tear, but I will show you exactly what it looks like up close. So it has a neck through body, it has a 25.5-inch scale, the body wood is agathis, it's flamed maple top, hence the FM in 251 FM, rosewood fingerboard, a 42mm standard nut, a thin new neck contour, 24 extra jumbo frets, black nickel hardware, ESP tuners, a tuner-matic bridge, and it did originally come with ESP LH301 bridge and neck humbuckers with a push-pull coil splitting system. That's not in there anymore, but I will go into that in a second. So it is a fixed bridge guitar. I currently don't have any Floyd Rose guitars. I did have one, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a second, but for now it's all fixed bridge. I do have a preference of fixed bridge for obvious reasons. Tuning stays in tune a lot easier, but I do love a Floyd Rose, and I do want to kind of broaden my capabilities with one of those. Hopefully I'll get one once again, but like I said, I'll explain that to you in a second. So I mentioned how this originally came with ESP standard pickups. They have not been in it for about 7 years now, because we put the James Hetfield EMGs in there, the 60 and 81, and they're really awesome. I do love them. I think that they're a little bit more raw than your standard 81s and 60s. In one of my other guitars, it came as an 81-60 pairing, and so I've been able to play them kind of side by side, and so that's how I would characterise these over the regular ones, is that they're a little bit more raw. Obviously good for all kinds of rock, and considering that they are modelled off of Metallica frontman's pickups, they're good for metal, and I've really enjoyed playing them. You can get some nice clean tones out of them as well, as you can suspect and guess. But yeah, it was a passive guitar, but it was made active. I'm not going to open the plate up because it's just a bit more fuss than is needed, but under there it's just like a wire jumble. It's not untidy, but it's not the neatest because it didn't have an actual like battery bay for it to sit in, because it wasn't intended to be an active guitar. So yeah, we just kind of shoved everything in the cavity. It ended up working well, and I obviously only need to get in there sometimes to change the battery, which is not very often. Speaking of cavities, listen to my song. It's on Spotify, and I have a new song coming out May 30th as well called Cardiac Romance, so you can check that out as well. But yeah, I love this guitar dearly. I can't foresee changing pickups in it anytime soon, if at all, to be honest. Not just because it was a little bit of a task getting these in there. They're also not like the plug-in and play ones. They had to be properly soldered in, whereas on one of my other guitars it was a plug and play kit, which is a lot easier and handy. I know that some guitar aficionados will probably be like, you don't love it enough if you don't solder them in. So I've got guitars where both has happened. But yeah, I think this is just going to be kept as it is, and if I'm lucky enough to get more guitars as I go along, I'll change the pickups in those. So I've got a variety of going on. I do try to keep this between certain tunings because I am fortunate enough to have a few guitars. I try to have specific guitars deal with certain tunings. So this usually fluctuates between E standard and like drop D. I think it is actually in like D standard at the moment, and I think I have taken it down to C, drop C, but I try to keep it in the more standard range. It's just not set up for those lower tunings really. It gets a little bit corn wobbly when I take it too low. Gets a bit unstable and is hard to keep it in tune. Obviously, like I said, there are not locking tuners on this as well, so just keeping it in the range is a good idea really. I could probably upgrade those at some point if I wanted to, but time will tell if I decide to do that. But yeah, so this is the guitar that I usually use for what might be considered slightly lighter tunings. Everything can be heavy if it chugs. That is a key lesson for life. However, it's not going down to like drop B Viking metal or anything like that. So I did mention about a guitar that I did have a Floyd Rose on. Because I don't have it anymore, I sold it. I'm not sure whether that was the best idea, but hindsight's 2020 and I can't go back on it now. I just felt like I needed the money at the time more than the guitar, and there were things that needed doing to it that I didn't really know how to do. Should have exercised more patience, but oh well. Because I don't have it anymore, I'm going to talk about it in this video because it did appear in covers, etc. So you guys may have seen it. So I'm just going to include it in this because you might be wondering what that was. So the finish on it was absolutely lovely. It was a see-through blue finish. It was called the ESP LTD MH401QM for quilted maple. The body was mahogany with a quilted maple top, as I just alluded to. It had a maple sinew neck. It had a Makassar ebony fingerboard. It also had a 25.5-inch scale length. Similarly, it had a 42mm nut width, and it came with EMG 85 and 81 pickups, 85 on neck and 81 on the bridge, which were amazing because it's the first time that I had actually owned a guitar with that. So I would like to get that pairing back in another guitar at some point if I can, because I think that they just had a really nice tone to them that I really appreciated, so hopefully I can get an 85 at some point again. So in comparison to this, apart from that this is obviously the H series and that was the MH series, it was kind of a league above because it was in the 400 models instead of the 200 models, but really I didn't feel like there was a lot of difference, especially considering that this has EMGs in it these days. It was really nice to play, but kind of harking back to what I was on about earlier with the neck of this just being so comfortable. The neck on the other one was a little bit chunkier. By no means like uncomfortable, and it wasn't cumbersome or anything like that. It's just that, as you'll know if you're a guitarist, some guitars feel a little bit nicer than others. So yeah, I ultimately made the decision to sell that, but if I can get a guitar that has a similar finish and paint job on it in the future, then I would definitely keep it because it was such a beautiful guitar. Maybe I was just not in my right mind when I decided to sell it. But in any case, so yeah, that's my H251 FM. I just think that for a mid-range guitar, because it was like £350 at the time, which was probably about $400, that it was just in some ways maybe made a little bit nicer than other guitars at that price point, because it has that neck through body, which having it be seamless and smooth like that is just really nice on the hand. But I just kind of feel like these days I haven't been encountering as many guitars like within this price range that have a neck through body. If you do know of guitars that have neck throughs, like, I am by no means an expert on this, so please in the comments let me know what your favourite guitar is and what specs are on it, etc. because I'm always up for learning about different guitars. So yeah, anyway, that covers it for this video. As I say, I will do another video on some of my other guitars in the future, and I thank you for spending this time with me going through my guitar. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, whether it be musical or gear related, and I hope that you have a really great day. See you later, guys.